This week in the show, we're talking Aaron Sorkin's historical drama, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Stick around as we take a dive into the basket case that was America in the 1960s, the basket case that is America now, and the story that highlights the parallels in two worlds half a century apart. I'm David.
I'm Caolan.
And this is Two Men the Podcast. It's been a big week in politics, Caolan.
So I've heard.
The US elections, Varadkar shit himself in the Dáil, and the biggest news of all, Caolan get into politics.
Yeah, I have now wrapped my head around the electoral college system, and I find it way more interesting than just a general like most votes win.
They want to get rid of it.
Because now they win, now that I get into it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's the equivalent of a last minute equaliser. Just out of nowhere if you get like 20 votes.
Yeah, exactly.
I find it so intriguing. I think we should bring it in. But make like, we definitely should. We should give like Loud 20 votes, Dublin like 2 votes, Cork like a vote.
Oh, minus votes.
Kerry like 12 votes.
I think if Cork votes 3, you lose 20 votes.
Yeah, that's fair enough actually. We could put like a Jeopardy vote in, like, you want to lose these states.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
like Biden goes down and he's like, oh, you're all motherfuckers or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
And just completely throw the election. It would be fantastic. That would bring in a whole new strategic element.
But then would they vote for you? So you lose.
But don't tell them that.
Okay, right. They don't know. They don't know.
Don't
right.
tell them. Maybe I don't know. Let them think they're helping you, but you know they're not.
What about on election day? It's announced which of these.
Admittedly, it would be hard then to get them to forget for the next election.
Yeah.
But like if we had some sort of like Men in Black pen thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And then like put a wall up around Cork and not let people in to tell them, because there's no one going to visit Cork.
No.
Get like fan buses in for football or something maybe. But sure, they're gone from the league now too, so no one even cares about that.
I think regardless of any elections and techniques, I think a wall around Cork is a good idea.
Yeah, a wall around Cork and their votes mean less.
Build the wall. That's what I say.
Build the wall and make Cork pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Trial of the Chicago 7.
Trial of the Chicago 7.
How'd you like it?
I liked it a lot more going out of it than I did going in. I didn't think I wasn't too excited for it. Maybe because it's such a serious topic and you kind of got to be in the mood for it. It pretty quick just grabbed me in. I know you really enjoyed this film.
I'm a big fan of it, yeah.
The cast is fantastic.
The cast is brilliant.
If you just have a quick look through the cast list, you've got Eddie Redmayne, Alex Sharp, Sacha Baron Cohen, Jeremy Strong, who is in this film, John Carroll Lynch, Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I just had to bring him in because I love his name. It's very cool. He plays Bobby Seale, and it's got the power of Sorkin behind him. This is like Sorkin's like 9th screenplay, 82, which was the film that you know and love and didn't recognise as a Sorkin text.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was Sorkin.
Few Good Men,
One of my
based on
films.
a play that he wrote as a young boy. I say young boy, he was like 20 or so. He's about my age as I say this, but Sorkin's powerful.
Yeah, I think it's a really good film. It's a really good story, and I'm actually curious, how much did you know about the kind of just background to the kind of civil rights movement in Vietnam War going into this?
Enough to get me a C in history.
Yeah,
enough to write my essay about, but I don't know how much of it I quite retained. So that's what I always find interesting about getting into stuff like this.
So that's what I was kind of wondering. Would it be better going into this, or how much background would you need to know? Because I think there's a kind of opening montage that gives. I think it gives the broad strokes, and it gives a good enough idea of what was going on in the country at the time. Because the country during the 60s was in the midst of huge civil rights movement, and I've got a list of just 5 kind of key figures in the civil rights movement who were assassinated during the 60s, and 4 of these were actually mentioned by Bobby at the start. He goes, someone goes to him, Dr. King. He goes, Dr. King is dead. Medgar's dead. Malcolm's dead. Bobby's dead. Jesus is dead. So what Medgar he's talking about is Medgar Evers, who's assassinated by a white supremacist in June 63. Then, of course, JFK, President of America, was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, allegedly. We're not getting into that, we've not the time.
We will have a conspiracy theory podcast at some stage.
At some stage, yeah. In November of 63, Malcolm X was assassinated by the Nation of Islam in February of 65. Again, also conspiracies, not getting into it. Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, again, don't have time to get into it, but the government killed him in April of 63. And then Bobby Kennedy, who was JFK's brother, was assassinated by a Palestinian national in June of 68. Again,
we'll have to do
he was murdered by the government.
We'll do a podcast about this stuff at some stage to not get too deep now.
Yeah, but in the run-up to the 1968 Democratic Convention, Bobby Kennedy was the frontrunner. and he was anti-Vietnam War, he was anti-segregation, he was pro-civil rights movement, and when he was killed, it essentially fell to this guy Hubert Humphrey, who was pro-war, wasn't complaining too much about segregation. This is why the protests were happening, because it was a civil rights thing, and it was, of course, the Vietnam War, which was inextricably tied to the civil rights movement, because black Americans,
undoubtedly,
were treated as second-rate citizens in the States, and then they were just being shipped off to Vietnam to die. I've got some here on the Vietnam War as well, if you're going to get into this.
Feel free, David.
So
it was on a journey.
Yeah, it was a 20-year war, which overall had just under 3 million American troops sent to it. At its peak, it had 500,000 American soldiers in Vietnam. It was essentially a proxy war between the States and the Russians, and it started in 1955 under Eisenhower, continued under JFK, along with the rest of the Cold War with the Cuban Missile Crisis, all this. Then it intensified severely under LBJ, and then Nixon, of course, came in afterwards, and it got so much worse. It was the Second Indochina War, and it was essentially the Vietnamese, the Laotian, and the Cambodian civil wars, with official Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodian governments backed by the States and backed by some other countries like Australia and New Zealand. Then you had the North Vietnamese, or the Viet Cong, you had the Pathet Lao, and you had the Khmer Rouge, which were all Marxist countries, or Marxist establishments, backed by the USSR and by China. And it started in 1955 and ended in 75 with, depending on where you are from in the world, basically if you're American it's called the Fall of Saigon, and if you're from anywhere else in the world it's called the Liberation of Saigon. That's just kind of background to this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much the setting that this whole film is in.
Yeah.
We're not historians,
no,
so we'll not get too deep into this. What we are here to do is give a terrible take on some movies.
Yeah.
What we will say is, David, what do you think of the cast and the Sorkin in particular? I think
it's one of the best casts I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's a group of heavy hitters.
Following up from the group of heavy hitters we did last week.
Yeah, this is
The Gentleman.
This is a good cast season, because I read through the cast already, but if you just put Sorkin behind any sort of cast that can at least talk, it's going to be something great. Let alone give him this kind of firepower. Like, the Batman is in this film for what?
Exactly.
10 minutes?
Yeah, and he's fantastic. Michael Keaton.
And he completely steals this film with just 3 scenes, maybe?
Yeah.
Is it even 3 scenes? It's the scene in his house.
Scene in his house and
the actual trial. Yeah. Straight away, it just takes this film by the balls.
Eddie Redmayne, I'm not the biggest fan of Eddie Redmayne. I haven't seen him in a lot, but he's brilliant in this.
I disagree with you.
You don't think
I think he's the weak point of the film.
You think he's the weak point?
Yeah. I won't say he's not terrible in this film. He carries kind of his own, but
yeah, I don't think he's the strongest, but I wouldn't say he's a weak point.
Well, maybe not my weak point.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I haven't seen Redmayne in much either. I'm hardly a big fan of him, but I just think he comes across. I don't think he plays. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen him enough, but I don't think he plays this kind of serious, gruff, head down kind of guy too well. I don't buy it. Even in this,
I wouldn't say gruff. I think he's very
not
by
gruff
the book.
maybe though, but let's be perfect. Let's act like the way they want. I don't think he does it well.
Yeah.
Even his fight with Sacha Baron Cohen's character had half an hour left, maybe 45 minutes left.
Yeah, after Dellinger's arrested.
I don't think it works.
Did you not like that?
I like the scene, but I don't buy Redmayne.
You don't buy Redmayne, okay.
I don't buy him. I just don't.
Because
I like the film, and I like the whole cast, and I like Redmayne as an idea.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it quite lands.
Well, Redmayne, of course, plays Tom Hayden, who was one of the leaders of the SDS, the Students for Democratic Society, and he was also a member of the Mob, who is led by Dave Dellinger, played by John Carroll Lynch, who I'm a big fan of. Just in general, he played Arthur Lee Allen in Zodiac, and he played Eastman in The Walking Dead in one of the most memorable one episode appearances by a character. Jeremy Strong playing Jerry Rubin is brilliant.
Who is great in this film.
He's so good.
Yeah. That's the 7, I think, bounce off each other well.
Yeah.
Which is what disappoints me about Redmayne.
Yeah.
It's just how good I think everyone else plays.
Yeah.
And he has highlights. I think Redmayne, he's good in this film. He's maybe just not he maybe lets me down slightly.
Yeah,
I do think he's good. I do think the trial of him going on stand, when Kunstler interviews him in their house or whatever, or their station.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good scene.
Yeah.
I think he plays that really well. Strikes me as off-putting about Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah, that's one thing that like I remember he kind of emerged as like Hollywood's next kind of leading man, and I just never saw it.
No.
That being said, I never watched The Theory of Everything. I never watched Fantastic Beasts: Where to Find Them. I saw
And
him.
I will never. There's a
No.
reason I don't watch
Yeah,
these films.
I saw him. The only thing I think I may have a bad opinion on Eddie Redmayne because the only thing I've seen him in is
Les Mis.
no,
Not even Les Mis.
it's like Valerian or something. It's this weird sci-fi movie with Cara Delevingne, and it's awful. I can't even remember, but he's terrible in it. I think he's a villain of some description. I can't even remember. He was awful in it.
Yeah, he's in that terrible Les Mis film.
I haven't seen it.
From like 2011, 2012. But yeah, he sleeps with one sock on. He strikes me as that kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? There's something just off-putting about Eddie Redmayne. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't let my daughter hang around with him, we'll say. But yeah, I do think everyone else. I have, as much as Eddie Redmayne's my weak point, maybe not my weak point of the entire film, but he's out of the 7, he's my weak point. Sacha Baron Cohen is my highlight.
He's fantastic
because I think this is the role that suits Sacha Baron. Take the gimmick away from him.
Yeah.
Put him in a role that is an actual person.
Yeah.
It isn't some terrible performance. Like, maybe he's not even terrible. Maybe as Borat, but Borat is terrible. Like, as soon as I watched this film last night, I made you pact with me that we will never cover Borat, and I want to try and extend that to Bruno.
Well, you said Borat. You didn't include Borat's subsequent movie film. So
I have not seen.
So
Borat
next week,
Borat's
subsequent movie film.
I don't plan on seeing Borat's subsequent movie film. He's so annoying because now that I know he's so good, I want to see him in everything. I want to see Sacha Baron Cohen in stuff because I just think if you take the gimmick off him, he plays really well. Him and Ruben are really good in this film.
They're so funny. Them in real life. Albie Hoffman, if you ever read any of his stuff, watch any interviews with him, he's brilliant. He's just, because he was the big flower power guy where they'd walk up to National Guards with rifles pointed at them and just put flowers in their
flowers in them, yeah.
He was an incredibly influential character of the 60s.
Yeah, you've recently read his book, I believe.
Steal This Book.
Steal This Book, yeah.
It's brilliant. It basically talks about how you shouldn't pay tax, how you shouldn't pay for anything, and you just live free, and that goes into the thing, Steal This Book. And back in the 60s or 70s when he published it, bookstores wouldn't keep it because it would be stolen. So a bookstore would take in, an order of how many, and they'd be all going off the shelves and no one was buying them because it was literally called Steal This Book. It's fantastic. He's such a brilliant character.
Yeah, I'm intrigued now to almost go and read this book myself because Sacha Baron Cohen has sucked me in here. And it's an intriguing topic, the Chicago 7. So I kind of want to know more about it. I came in on, not blind, but I came in maybe not as informed about this as I think I've left, because I've been so into reading about it now.
Yeah, and also the 8th member of the Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who was Bobby Seale, who was the co-founder of the Black Panthers, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who's brilliant in this. He's the best name in Hollywood.
Great name.
And he's also a brilliant actor, which is great.
Bonus.
Yeah, exactly. He was previously in Aquaman as Black Mantis.
Yeah, he's been in nothing until Aquaman, and now he's in everything.
Yeah, and he deserves it. He's so good. He's brilliant in this. If you've ever heard Bobby Seale, a Bobby Seale speech, he does him so well.
I think that scene with Bobby Seale when he gets his mistrial is maybe it's the most powerful scene in the film.
I think so. Yeah.
It's what kicks it, really.
Yeah.
There's other scenes that are just like strong, but I think that's the emotional scene of because that's when Kunstler, when they finally just are like, this is over pretty much. They know at that stage that they're not getting out of this.
Yeah.
This is when
Well, I wouldn't say that's when.
Oh, well, it's when he knows the judge isn't.
Yeah, but the fact that he gives them this, I think the moment where they know it's done, it's over, is when
the Attorney General.
Yeah, is when the attorney is when Ramsey Clark is.
I don't think, because they don't think of the Attorney General at this stage. I think they are done.
Yeah.
And then they think of the Attorney General, and they're like, right, okay.
Yeah.
One last go, but then they're done again.
Yeah.
So I do think they're out twice.
Yeah. It's crazy that happened, and that wasn't just declared a mistrial right there and then. That happened for several days, that he was left gagged and bound in a courtroom. Kunstler was quoted saying, "This is no longer a court of law, this is a medieval torture chamber." And your man, Justice Hoffman, such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He is just such a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a real asshole.
He's a real asshole, yeah.
I have him down as a highlight of the film, though.
Oh yeah, he's very well
He's
performed.
very well performed
The
in this film. Yeah,
actor whose name I don't have
I'll
did
get
a
it
very
right
good
for
job.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's great in this film. Same with I don't think we've mentioned him yet. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as
Yeah.
Richard Schultz, who, as I have gleaned from my listening, was maybe
Not as
some
sympathetic.
creative liberties
Yeah.
taken with the.
I think he did stand for the fall at the end of the movie. I think that's true. But yeah, he wasn't as sympathetic as he was portrayed in the movie.
Yeah.
But I get where you have to kind of, you want a kind of redeemable antagonist kind of.
Yeah, I just think there's not much need for it, really.
Yeah.
I think if you just let him be a piece of shit.
Yeah,
You don't need. I get it's a political thing, and you don't want to alienate all the fucking
And
people gonna watch this film.
on
But
top of that, Schultz was very much. He was told, "You're doing this. This is the biggest case of your life." He couldn't say no to it. This was his job.
it's Frank Langella, by the way.
Frank Langella plays
Judge Julius
Julius
Hoffman,
Hoffman.
who is not related to Abby Hoffman.
No, father, no.
That is the one I have it in quotes here. Father, no. Yeah, the Sacha Baron Cohen's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
What I have to ask you, David, real hard hitting questions here. I want to get to the end of.
Go on.
When they go into when they're entering the court,
Yeah.
someone throws an egg at them.
Yeah.
And Ruben catches it. And
Yeah.
doesn't know what to do with the egg. What would you do with an egg?
I'd eat it. If I was in that situation, I'd just crack it and eat it. Because what else can you do? And just
Yeah.
leave the eggshells on
You
the floor.
can't carry it.
No.
No, he
Because
lets
you
me
see
down there. You can't just carry this egg.
You see him, he's like, I got an egg.
Yeah.
Well, get rid of it. You don't think I want to?
Do something with this egg. I don't know what. Maybe crack it on something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like the door of the court. Maybe just crack the
Yeah.
egg.
So
I'm not
people
sure.
have to touch a nasty eggy handle
The
together.
handle, do it.
Yeah.
Just as you go in,
Yeah.
hit the thing, so that whoever lets you out then has to. Yeah, that's maybe what I'd do. Some sort of egg trick. Yeah, that's the hard hitting question that I
Yeah.
had for you. I was waiting all day to ask you this one.
Right, so go through the plot kind of now. So the 8 defendants, the Conspiracy 8, which is Chicago 7 and Bobby Seale, they were charged with conspiracy to cross state lines to incite violence under what's called the Rat Brown Law, which is a law passed by Southern whites to restrict the movements of black activists. So it's very contentious on what they were even being charged with to start with. The 7 were all free on bail. Bobby Seale was under arrest for killing a cop in Connecticut, which he was later found innocent of because he didn't kill him. He was just the leader of the Black Panthers, so they needed to pin something on him. And one of the early witnesses they bring in the film is this guy Stahl, who's very funny. So he's had meetings with, particularly his meetings with Hoffman and Reuben are hilarious. So they go, yes, there's going to be a festival of life, there's going to be music. And he goes, rock music? Yeah. And public fornication. And he goes, no.
You want a permit for public fornication?
And he's like, no. He's like, well, if it's R&B, can we get it?
Yeah. It's a great series of scenes, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then at the end of this meeting, he offers as a joke, or you give me 100 grand and I'll call it all off. And Consular goes up and basically points out that, after he was offered this 100 grand and you'll give it all up, that he didn't report this extortion to the police, to the FBI, to the Attorney General, to anyone. So then the judge strikes this from the record and says, yeah, all of his cross-examination is inadmissible. Then they see that jurors 6 and jurors 11 are sympathetic to their cause. So the FBI give them fake Black Panther notes and they're dismissed. And after that, the jury gets sequestered, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's when the jury's taken and put in a hotel so they can't see the news coverage and the media coverage. This was for a lot of reasons. Parts of the media were very sympathetic towards the Chicago 7. There's one witness that the state had called, and Hoffman leaned over to Consular. This wasn't in the movie, but he leaned over to Consular and said, is this testimony going to be damaging to us? And Consular said, yeah, it's going to be bad. So Hoffman said, I'll make it go away. So he stood up on the table and did a headstand for the entire time while this witness was talking. So all the media coverage, none of it mentioned the testimony. It was talking about the headstand. And it was just, it's just fantastic stuff like this.
Yeah.
I wish they put some of that in the movie, because they put them wearing their judges' robes.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's so funny.
That is very
That
funny.
was brilliant.
And then take it off to be the...
Yeah, he orders them to take off the
uniforms
robes,
then as well,
and they're
yeah.
wearing police officer uniforms underneath. And another thing that Hoffman did is he brought in a Viet Cong flag, and he held it up. Again, this isn't the movie, but he holds it up behind himself, and it had to be wrestled off. And there's a great courtroom drawing of the marshals pulling the Viet Cong flag off him and he's just not letting go. It's fantastic stuff.
Fantastic, yeah, that's great. Yeah, the actual stuff of this trial is insane.
It's crazy.
It's mental when you like more of the stuff that's not in the movie is.
Yeah.
It's just insane that this ever happens in a court.
Oh, it's mental.
If court was like this more, I think I'd go.
You'd go, yeah.
Yeah. If this is what I was getting into dark court, you for real, yes. Yeah, it's insanity.
At the same time, you had Bobby Seale being denied legal representation because his lawyer was in hospital
with
gallbladder surgery. He'd gone under gallbladder surgery. So they put in a motion to postpone the trial so his lawyer could attend, which was denied, shockingly. Then at one stage, he requests to represent himself, which is denied for no particular reason. And the court, or Hoffman, assumes that Fred Hampton is essentially giving him legal advice because Fred Hampton's the leader of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panthers. Fred Hampton was also killed during this trial. He was assassinated by the police.
Yeah, assassinated.
He was badly drugged on barbiturates, which were sleeping drugs back at the time, and he was shot in the shoulder and the head. Like, it was very much premeditated assassination.
Yeah, it's not much
as Bobby Seale points out. Yeah.
Not much fighting back to do in that situation.
Yeah, and then Bobby Seale has this outburst where he, starts yelling it was premeditated murder. Ask about the bullet in the shoulder, exactly. And this is what gets him gagged and bound in an American court of law. So,
and it just lingers long enough on the seven, the judge, the crowd, as you can just hear him being gagged and stuff in the back. And that's then
it's very uncomfortable.
It's just so uncomfortable to watch. As some of this film is.
Yeah. There's another scene around here is the flashback. So after Hayden gets arrested and everyone marches on the police station and you've got fucking Ginsberg, the poet.
Yeah, just omen the whole way. He just ohms the whole way to the police station.
So funny. And at one stage, Ruben just turns around and just give it a rest, Ginsberg. Yeah. It's very funny.
They're like, Ginsberg's leading war chants. And he's
exactly. Yeah, beat war chants.
Yeah.
And they go back. So they get to the police station. So Hoffman and Dallinger stay to bail Hayden out, and everyone else heads back to the park. And the park has now been filled with these police officers. Police officers armed with essentially baseball bats.
Yeah, bat.
And with tear gas. Which, fun fact, tear gas is banned in warfare since 1928 under the Geneva Convention. So that's the kind of... And it's still being used today.
It's still used, yeah.
In America. So that's the kind of shit they're dealing with. And there's one thing Sorkin has talked about a lot, in that this movie was originally kind of brought up as an idea, and he started writing the screenplay in 2010. And he said there was a moment in 2016 at a Trump rally when he was on his presidential campaign that he said, this movie's gonna, if I make this movie now, it's gonna be more relevant than ever. And it's, someone was basically started yelling abuse at Trump, and Trump said, in the good old days, he would have left here in a stretcher.
Yeah, that's...
Talking, so fondly of police brutality. Yeah, so, yeah.
Not a shock to hear from...
No, from
Trump.
President, no.
I just said that some of the other parts of this film, along with Bobby Seale, are hard to watch. The riot is especially so. Just because of the climate we're in, I suppose. Yeah. This whole year there's been nothing but riots everywhere, especially in America. It's been very relevant this year. It is a little mental. He's been sitting on this script for so long, and to release it now of all times is... Exactly, yeah. And I saw an interview with him, and he said if you look at the police, going into the Black Lives Matter protests and beating the shit out of people, if you just put that in grainy footage, it's the same footage as 1968. Stuff, yeah. If you just intercut the two, which, the famous video of the police van driving into a barricade, hitting about 6 or 7 people, the Portland PD, there was a great quote from, he was a photographer, and he covered Syrian war, he covered Vietnam War. He was about 70, and he said, everywhere I've gone, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Syria, I've been to the Far East, I've been everywhere. I've been to the Middle East, and Portland PD were the people who beat the shit out of me. Like, it's fucking mental. Yeah, it is insane, some of the stuff going on around the world. We're hardly the right people to be going and solving it, but our thoughts are with everyone, I suppose. Exactly, yeah. But it's a really relevant movie. It's the kind of thing Sorkin dwells in so well. Yeah. It's the kind of movie where it's kind of his ideal movie, where he kind of likes to, maybe not so much the riots is a bit of it's an addition to this, but the whole courtroom scene, like the whole courtroom film maybe, I suppose, is the exact type of location Sorkin likes to sit. Is like A Few Good Men is a is a court movie. The Social Network is it's like court but in a workplace is pretty much how he dwells.
It's all legal proceedings
Yeah, it's the
with
same with
flashbacks.
The
too.
West Wing, the newsroom, Sports Night. It's all the exact type of film he likes to make.
Yeah, so then comes in Ramsey Clark. They realise that what if all of this indictment, the judge going mental at them, is all because John Mitchell is pissed off at Ramsey Clark. Because Ramsey Clark, so he refused to resign when Nixon was elected until an hour before Mitchell was sworn in. And they just show up at Ramsey Clark's, and he's already called the Justice Department, who are sitting in the room with them. And he basically says, yeah, I'm in private practice now. John Mitchell can cut me in half. That's what those men came to tell me. So I wanted them in the room when I said, when do you want me in court? And he's brilliant.
After Redmayne tells him to get some courage.
Yeah.
That's a good scene. With Michael Keaton, so great.
He's fantastic.
So good.
Yeah. So then they bring in the Attorney General, and the judge decides to hear it in voir dire, which is he'll hear the evidence without the presence of the jury, and then decide if it merits the jury hearing.
Bringing the jury back in for it.
Exactly. He decides it's not, even though Ramsey Clark says that his office, the Justice of Department, found that the Chicago Police Department started the riots. Then he also shoots down a motion that the jury even be notified that
there was the Attorney General.
Yeah. So again, it's just this, and this is when Dellinger gets himself arrested, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Dellinger stands up, and Dellinger is a lifelong pacifist. He was a conscientious objector to World War II. He didn't even fight in World War II. And he stands up and he's so mad. He's like, why didn't you just give us a trial? You think we're guilty. You know we're guilty. Clearly you've made up your mind. Why not just give us a trial? And the marshals keep coming. He's like, you don't have to put your hand on me. And one of them just grabs him and he just turns around and just floors him. And it's kind of showing the frustration of these men. This is a man who wouldn't fight in World War II, who wouldn't pick up a gun against the Nazis. And this has drove him to violence. And it's just mad.
It is. It's an insane abuse of power from.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
From an entirely corrupt judge.
Yeah.
It's insane that this isn't fiction. That's the most striking thing about this film is that
I think if this movie was fiction, it'd be unrealistic.
Yeah,
it would be stupid.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy it. Yeah.
No. Then the defense gets a tape of Tom Hayden saying, "If blood is going to flow, let it flow all over the street," which allegedly kicked off the riots. This is after he saw Rennie Davis get clubbed badly because he was trying to get the police to stop beating some kid. It's just mad. This leads to Hoffman taking the stand, which is another brilliant kind of performance by Sacha Baron Cohen in a much more kind of serious.
Yeah, this is, like I said, it's the type of thing I think he does so well here.
Yeah.
He's a Sorkin actor. Sorkin's thing is give open-ended questions and let someone politically drive back the answer. And this is exactly what happens here with Sacha Baron Cohen. He even manages to make it light a little too before he just hits his powerful notes here.
Like he makes the joke. He gets the quote from the Bible. Do you know who said that? He's like, Jerry Rubin? Yeah, but Jesus.
Yeah, he hits his points really well here. This is coming into the climax of the film now. Yeah. It's safe to say it doesn't convince the judge.
No, shockingly. Or the
in
jury.
Any way, really, no. And it goes then it goes to sentencing straight away then, isn't it?
Yeah, so it goes to sentencing. And the judge says, right, before I pass down my sentence, the defence can make a speech, a closing statement, And he was told that Tom Hayden was going to was going to make the statement, and he says, despite your actions, you've been the only one who's shown the court any respect at all during this whole proceedings. If you make your statement brief, polite, and with no political content, I'll look favourably on you in sentencing. So Tom Hayden picks up this book and says, 4,752 troops have died in Vietnam since this trial began, and these are their names.
And lists off
5,000 names.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, and the judge is just furious at this.
He's slamming the gavel like a cartoon villain.
It's fantastic.
He slams that gavel like Perry the Platypus has just escaped his capture.
It gave me such joy seeing your man Hoffman so furious. It's brilliant.
And he's basically saying to Hayden before Hayden sticks a finger up at him, pretty much he's pretty much giving him a get out of jail card here. Yeah. To not be fucked with the rest of them, which is the point Hayden makes the whole film of, we're trying to get out here, we're not trying to make a statement. So what he chooses to do in the end is make the statement, fuck it, out of here.
There's two lines in this film that I did not like at all. And I think I found this a problem with Netflix films in general and Netflix content, is when they try to do like some sort of like commentary. It's about as subtle as a dump truck reversing.
Yeah.
So at the start of the film, Richard Schultz is sitting in the Attorney General's office and his secretary goes, "Oh, you've arrived at a moment in history." And he goes, "What?" And she goes, "Oh, they're changing the painting." And I was like, no one would say that. No one would say that.
But what I will say is, it does come across as a Netflix, but it's also just a Sorkin problem.
Yeah, yeah.
He likes to hit his notes, and he doesn't hit them. He hits them with all the grace and decorum of a reversing dump truck.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
The other one I had was during the riots, and when it's cutting between the riots and Abby Hoffman stand-up comedy, and it's cutting between
Seinfeld, yeah.
Yeah, and they're outside this bar, and he's talking about how it's the 50s inside the bar and it's the 60s are happening live in action outside the bar, and someone in the bar turns around and says, "Am I the only one who sees what's going on out there?" And I was like, oh, it's just so heavy-handed.
It is heavy. It's definitely heavy-handed, yeah.
But other than that, brilliant film.
Yeah, I did really like it. That's what I wanted to... What I was trying to think was, because of how weird this year's been, and just how abnormally stilted all the launch films have been.
Yeah.
This film could have a genuine shot at something here.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the best film of the year so far. I'm trying to, like, maybe best drama of the year so far. I can't think of anything big that's jumped out.
Off the top of my head, no.
I'm sure I'm missing an obvious candidate here.
There was probably some released, like some of those kind of like indie films, released
in the Oscar year or whatever. Yeah, like there's been good films this year, like Palm Springs and stuff sticks out, but nothing no real Oscar fare. Like whereas this Sorkin written and directed Chicago 7 movie kind of screams Oscar fare.
I think very often a film like this could be Oscar bait because it's very relevant. Yeah. But I think it is just genuinely very good and very relevant.
Yeah, no, I know they don't tend to look too fondly on a streaming service, but with the year that's been, I find it hard to believe they won't. Well, they've already said that they're tilting their criteria slightly for this year to add more streaming service films. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was up for Best Picture.
Oh yeah.
Just if not even if it is the best 7 film of the year, just because the stilted fucking launch lineup, like the amount of films pushed back that almost definitely would have been in the list, like Fast and Furious and Bond.
Fast and Furious, Bond, Black Widow, all Oscar
Quiet Place too.
Yeah.
Fucking it'll be this and Mulan fighting it out at this stage.
Christ. Don't get me started with that.
Yeah, that's all I had to say really on the film itself. I had a couple of notes written down I wanted to track where the Chicago 7 have got off to, because
go on.
The end of the film they put in the notes about what happens to Jerry Rubin, what happens to Abby Hoffman, Bobby Seale being falsely accused.
Yeah.
So what I have now realised why they didn't put all 7 of them. Yeah. Because the further you get down the list, it gets a lot less interesting.
Yeah.
They've had good lives, I suppose.
I found this when I looked up John Freund's and found a paragraph on Wikipedia and nothing else.
Yeah, they don't even have, like, when you hit Bobby Seale, Jerry Rubin, Abby Hoffman, Tom Hayden, even Dellinger, they all have, like, subcategories on Wikipedia. Yeah. And then you hit the rest of the boys and there's just not a tap.
Yeah. I think Dave Dellinger even, he was probably more interested before the Chicago 7 than afterwards. Because
100%.
He was from a very rich background, and he basically said, I don't want any of this. I don't like the way, rich people hoard their money and, while poor people are suffering. And he spent time working in Spain, and this is why he wouldn't fight in World War II, because he saw the profits big companies were making off war and how they loved to see a war, and he refused to just be a part of that.
I'm going to run real quickly through the Chicago 7. We have Hoffman obviously wrote the best-selling book, Steal This Book, which they say they don't have any idea how many are in circulation. He killed himself in 1989.
Well, it was a drug overdose.
Oh, well, it said killed himself. I didn't go too far.
I wouldn't. It's like people close to him said that they didn't think he killed himself, and the coroner said that there's no way he injected that amount of drugs. And I think you never really know what's going on in someone's mind, but I think...
Okay, so he died in 1989, we'll go with. Jerry Rubin was hit and killed while crossing the street at UCLA. I didn't get a year for that, actually, but
think it was 98.
98. Tom Hayden was elected to California State Legislator.
Yep.
Dellinger was awarded a Courage of Conscience Award and died in 2004 in a care facility. Rennie Davis founded the Foundation for a New Humanity, which is a venture capital company commercialising breakthrough technology, and is still alive today. John Freund, PhD, he went on to work for UCLA School of Public Health as well as the Occupational Health Centre.
Good work.
I couldn't find anything on him really. And Lee Weiner has the least. He had maybe 4 lines read.
Yeah.
Until like August.
Yeah.
Because he has recently published a memoir called Conspiracy to Riot: The Life and Times of One of the Chicago Seven.
There you go.
Which was published in August of this year. So before August, he has almost nothing on his Wikipedia apart from the fact that he was in the Chicago Seven.
He was on the Chicago 7. Tom Hayden also married Jane Fonda.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go. Look at Redmayne.
And then divorced her.
Yeah. But you can't lose the race if you're not in the race.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's us on the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
You want to hit us with our... Oh no, let's not skip our recommendation of the week real first.
Yeah.
Do you have one brought today?
Yeah, so as we've promised, these aren't going to be any indie picks. This is quite a big film, but it's just been added to Netflix today. It's one of the best animated films of all time.
I know what this is, yeah.
One of the best superhero films of all time.
Oh, it's definitely one of the best superhero films.
It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, recently I just added today to Netflix UK and Ireland.
Technically a continuation of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. It's very good. It's very enjoyable. Because I don't really like the Spider-Man films. Because I don't like Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
He just irritates me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Tobey Maguire
existence.
either, though.
I don't like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. I like Tom Holland, but at the same time, I'm getting very tired of the MCU at this point.
Yeah.
And I think Into the Spider-Verse is so fresh. It's so different. It's done in the same like art style as a comic book, and it's very good. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I will almost definitely be checking Into the Spider-Verse back out tonight because it's just because it's on Netflix now.
Brilliant.
It's a topical choice as well, David, because the new Spider-Man game, of course, launches next Thursday.
Oh, does it?
So if you planned it ahead, it was a very topical choice.
Yeah, which is definitely my plan.
Definitely will happen.
Yep.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse is really good. Features a Community reference too, so...
Yes, it does.
Any film that references the greatness of Community is up there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the one recommendation that we don't have to talk about too much because I think everyone really knows. Just go to Netflix, check out Into the Spider-Verse and get back to us and let us know.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, which I doubt. Do you want to... What's our social medias, David? Where can these people find us?
They can find us at 2 Men 1 Pod on Twitter, 2 Men the Pod on Instagram, 2 Men the Podcast on YouTube. You can email us at 2menthepod@gmail.com. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts now. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's all these different forms of...
Yeah.
Well, you can go find us on Tidal. We're on anywhere you get your podcast.
Also, I found out that if you Google us in the incognito browser, we're now the 3rd result. But it's the 3rd result on Stitcher, where we have got a total of 1 listen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Stitcher.
Which is like...
I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
Is this a
so
podcast
like,
platform? Or?
I think so.
Okay.
It's like a... So it brings in like, what, 1/4% of our listens, 1/5% of our listens.
If you're the person who listens on Stitcher, please get back to us and let us know how it works. Because I am willing to switch podcast medium for you.
Yeah.
Our loyal listener. We're going to cover next week Ben Affleck's 2012 Argo.
Yeah, which I haven't seen.
I have not seen it yet either. I'm just looking at the cast here. It's a great top bill. We've got Ben Affleck, Bryan Cranston, Alan Arkin, and John Goodman.
Oh,
I'm excited to watch this one now.
Friend of the pod, John Goodman.
Friend of the pod, John Goodman. And Kyle Chandler's in this. I'm excited. This has got me in. I have not seen this one. This is the one he won Best Picture for, isn't it? Yes.
All I know from it is he says, "Argo, fuck yourself,"
which is exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to that bit.
Science fiction film. Is that our first science? No, The Thing's a science fiction.
The Thing's science fiction. Yeah. I realised how much I love science fiction recently.
Yeah. Oh, you just wait till we get to Alien.
Because like even with bad science fiction movies, I've found that there's still a good idea behind them.
Speaking of bad sci-fi films, can't wait till we get to Cloverfield.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So Argo next week. Exciting times.
Yeah.
That's us for today. Thanks for listening.
See you next week.
See you later.